I'm Sandy Petersen. Petersen games are all part of the same universe, or perhaps multiverse is a better way to say it. So what I'd like to do here is tell you what that timeline is, the Petersen games timeline, with all our games fitting into one great, more or less coherent whole. The first game, the one that kicks it all off, is one that we haven't actually released yet. It's called Eternal Adversary, and it's coming this summer. And in this, meddling entities from raw chaos, outside all the realms, decide to try to destroy all reality by opening up rifts and cracks between the different realities, kind of mixing them together and causing them to rupture and become unreal and go away. And so that's what that game is about. Now, they're thwarted in this, and so they return back and melt back into the raw chaos that they came from. But after effects and aftershocks remain. In the game Orcs Must Die, there is openings that remain between the orc world and the human world, and they start filtering back and forth between each other, and an eternal war begins. In our game The Gods' War, the world of Glorantha appears inside raw chaos and starts to form and generates its own natural laws and its own reality, and then immediately forms into struggle among different warring elemental factions. And this goes on and develops into the world of Glorantha. In our own world, that of Earth, the after effects of the cracks set up a lot of different things. What happens is that old magic becomes real. Fairy tales become real, even movie monsters. And so one effect is that mad scientists start to pop up, and in our game Dysonstein, they start to build their monsters in these various attempts to make monster armies and, cackle like geniuses and do things. So you have Dysonstein. Not everything is malign. In our game Tooth Fairy, the Tooth Fairy becomes real, or perhaps more real, and collects the teeth and blesses kids that have lost their teeth by giving them money and other rewards. And so we have the Tooth Fairy game. This game is also not released, but is coming this summer. In another game that we have coming up called Potions and Profits, a huge multinational pharmaceutical firm makes magic potions for money and rewards. Well, as this goes on and magical realities become more part of our world, some people start to say, well, what about older mythic realities like the Norse gods, the ancient Greek gods, the Sumerian, whatever? What about these? And so cults spring up worshiping Osiris or Poseidon or Morrigan or Thor. And these old gods start to appear, and this brings the gods out of their retirement, and they say, hey, we're back. And they begin to game with one another in our game Theomachy, where they essentially are playing poker with the souls of their worshippers. The game goes on, but it goes too far as those gods return. And in fact, they become more and more violent and obsessed with it. And finally, the meddling of the gods awakens something much worse than them, which is a mythology stronger than the old pagan gods. In fact, it's a mythology that destroyed those old religions. And what happens is the forces of hell come up from the underworld. Demons arise. The old gods, they flee in terror. They're out. They go away. And hell comes up and spreads over the earth. And this is, of course, our game, Planet Apocalypse, currently in final production. Hell spreads over the world and tries to destroy it, but humanity fights back. We beat back hell, and in its final throes, hell opens up a connector to something else. What they view as the archdemon, Cthulhu, and the other great old ones, and they open up a tap to that. Then hell is thwarted and returns to hell. But that connection they set up remains. And in our game Evil High Priest, currently available, cults start capitalizing on that connection to the great old ones and the outer gods and the elder gods and these forces of darkness. Well, not really darkness, because they aren't a color, right? They connect up and they start worshiping these beings, trying to bring Cthulhu or the Black Goat or the Crawling Chaos through to our world. Well, they succeed. And when they succeed, we move on to our most famous game, Cthulhu Wars. The Great Old Ones rise up and take over the world in a huge battle, then fighting to see which one wins. One result of this is humanity flees in 2 directions. Some people escape through the still few remaining rifts and the gates that the Cthulhu guys have risen up to go into other realms, often ones where there's magic. And this leads into our products, Sandy Petersen's Cthulhu Mythos for Pathfinder and 5e, where there's humans in these other universes, but now the Cthulhu monsters are there too with those universes. But lastly, our game that we presented this summer and is currently undergoing production, which is Hyperspace. Humanity gets into outer space, escapes Earth. Cthulhu then comes off Earth, and now all the cosmos with different alien races start to meet each other and colonize and clash and do stuff. And in fact, if you play the game Hyperspace, you'll see that the planet that the Starspawn have as their home, Cthulhu's forces, is Earth. And the humans don't have a planet because it was destroyed by the Starspawn. Well, not destroyed, occupied, we'll say, because there's still a rock there, It's just full of Cthulhu monsters. So there's Hyperspace. Well, eventually, the alien races in hyperspace, some of them at least learn to work together and cooperate. And this leads to the game, also in final production, Startropolis, where a bunch of these aliens, the more reasonable ones, come together and try to build a space station where they can all work together in peace and harmony. The universe is well off. There's still forces of destruction. There's forces of good, but the universe has kind of come to a stasis, not a stasis, but a accounting. But eventually, as time goes on, the universe begins to contract again or to die out. Not clear yet. And what happens is that this leads to a game that is coming this fall. We call it an 8-bit attack because the forces of the world kind of degenerate, and 8-bit attack comes this fall, and it has all the forces which once clashed. The hyperspace aliens, the Cthulhu monsters, the hell monsters from Planet Apocalypse, even the Glorantha gods and deities come together in one final spasm, one huge battle. And 8-bit attack depicts this. And that is the end of the universe, but not the end of the Petersen Games timeline, because there is a new Big Bang. There is a new universe. And next year, or possibly a little later, we'll see, a new universe is born. There is a new world. There is a new place that things happen on. And our game Tree of Life, and this is the first you're hearing of this, is set there. So there it is, from Eternal Adversary on through all the games, some not released, some older. All of them work together, and we have one great mix of the games in the Petersen Games timeline. Now you know. It all makes sense if you think about it kind of sideways. Thanks. I'm Sandy Petersen.